May 6, 2023, in a Monterey County courtroom, District Attorney's Office said that they sentenced 23-year-old Neil Aguan Palermo to 64 years to life in prison for involvement in random attempted murders used by gangs as an initiation method. Neil Aguan Palermo was found guilty of a 2017 double attempted murder on Orchard Street. Aguan Palermo was found guilty of first-degree conspiracy to commit murder and 2 counts of first-degree attempted murder, as well as for gang-related firearm enhancements causing great bodily injury committed for the benefit of a criminal street gang. According to authorities, February 13, 2017, Salinas police arrived at Orchard Street at 12:21 a.m. to find a father and son suffering from several gunshot wounds. Aguan Palermo and other gang members followed the two and shot at them as they pulled into their driveway. The Salinas murder squad ended up enveloping 11 total defendants. Enormous amounts of prison time were handed out for these crimes, and the randomness of the attacks really hit home for local residents and for those in the surrounding areas.
It was called Operation Red Rum by authorities. Their investigation led to the arrest of Salinas gang members accused of killing the innocent. One gang member now sentenced to 64 to life in prison. That's 23-year-old Neil Aguillon Palmero. He was found guilty back in December for attempted murders of 2 people back in 2017. The random attempted murders were carried out by gangs to initiate new gang members, according to the Monterey County District Attorney's Office. The DA also adds that none of the victims had gang ties.
On the Crime Watch tonight, 2 suspects have been arrested in connection with 4 shootings in Salinas. Officers say they arrested Noah Serrano on Wednesday at his home, and then they arrested a second suspect, Leonardo Luna, during a traffic stop. Detectives say that they have evidence that the 2 men were hunting for victims who they believe were rival gangs.
Crime Watch. 2 men have been arrested, accused of carrying on a nearly dozen shootings in Salinas. Those shootings injured 3 people. More on the investigation and who the targets were from Action News 8 reporter Felix Cortez, live right now in Salinas. Felix?
Well, Dan, police say those 2 men cruised Salinas streets hunting down rival gang members. 2 men, 19-year-old Leonardo Luna and 20-year-old Noah Serrano, arrested and charged with going on a Salinas shooting spree. Their target, rival gang members.
These 2 suspects were hunting, and I'm using that word very directly, hunting rival gang members. And very specifically rival gang members.
Police say Luna and Serrano committed 5 shootings in Salinas dating back to August. 3 people were injured. When the men were arrested at homes on Spence Road and Tulane Street, weapons believed to be used in the alleged shootings were found.
And I think it speaks volumes that the community came out and provided tips to the police department so that these 2 guys could get apprehended.
Detectives said the 2 are not connected to a Salinas murder squad that was detailed back in October when a federal indictment was handed down against 6 alleged gang members accused of running a murder squad that left 8 people dead.
The murder squad patrolled in multi-car hunting caravans. These caravans coordinated their actions through 2- and 3-way phone calls. Each car in the caravan fulfilled a distinct role, with 1 car containing shooters and other cars acting as spotters or security.
Police say Luna and Serrano did not act with such sophistication. Fortunately, no one was killed.
Things like this matter, and particularly with the safety of our community, being able to solve crimes, being able to arrest the bad guys is really important, particularly in our city of Salinas.
Now, both those men remain in the Monterey County Jail. They've been charged with multiple counts of attempted murder along with gang enhancements. Their bail has been set at more than $2 million each. Dan?
Thank you, Felix. Police say that this is an active investigation and it may involve more crimes and more suspects.
New tonight, a 4th suspect now charged in connection with a Salinas shooting. from back in 2018. That shooting leaving a farm worker dead. Here's what we know. Salinas police say that 43-year-old Felix Francisco was walking in East Salinas when he was approached by 2 vehicles and gunned down. The investigation led officers to believe there were 4 shooters. 3 suspects have already been convicted for his murder. Now, late last month, police arresting a 4th suspect in San Jose. We know that he is 22-year-old Samsoni Tumalatai. He was 17 at the time of the shooting. He's now booked into the Monterey County Jail.
We are beginning tonight with law enforcement dealing a big blow to gangs and organized crime in what's being called the largest criminal gang case in Santa Clara County history. 48 suspected members of the Nuestra Familia gang were indicted today on multiple serious felonies. With more on the indictment and its expected impact on the Central Coast, here's Action News reporter Tom Miller, who's live in our Salinas newsroom with tonight's top story.
Well, Aaron, to be clear, these are not small-time gangsters. These are some of the top organizers running the show up and down California. In Santa Clara County alone, they are in charge of 27 different street-level gangs. Tonight, many of them are behind bars after another major gang sweep.
The Nuestra Familia gang is large and highly organized, exerting control from inside state prisons and local jails to the streets of Santa Clara County and Salinas. However, now 39 of its members are in custody and another 9 are wanted after being indicted on 77 felonies, the largest ever in Santa Clara County history.
When you look at the drug trafficking, the witness intimidation, the firearms, the murder, the robberies, it was a significant crime spree, and this prosecution will bring that to a close.
Among the charges, the 2012 execution of a 38-year-old gang member in San Jose, and earlier that year, the holdup of a Bank of America and subsequent chase that shut down Highway 85.
These are major players that they have today under indictment. When you remove that from the community, there's really no one to run the business, and that's what it is. It's a criminal enterprise.
That enterprise hasn't spared the Central Coast.
Fact of the matter is, a lot of the Nuestra Familia is run out of the city of Salinas. So to take off another regiment like Santa Clara or maybe in Stockton or some other place is bound to have a residual effect on Salinas.
These large-scale interagency gang roundups have proven to be a successful crime-fighting tool here in Monterey County as well. Just last month, Operations Clean Sweep and Snake Eyes landed more than 70 arrests here, which begs the question, why isn't our law enforcement doing these all the time?
The reason we don't do them every month is because we can't sustain it with the resources that we have at the Salinas Police Department.
But when they are organized, they work, and officers will be the first to tell you the streets are more peaceful and quieter because of it.
38 men and 10 women were charged in this case, and while some of them were already behind bars and another 9 are still on the loose, we're told that there were dozens of arrests made in this case. Aaron?
All right, Tom, thank you. All of the alleged crimes in the indictment happened over the last 3 years. Nuestra Familia has been run out of California's prisons since the 1960s.
Afternoon, I'm May Fasai. Dale Julin is off today. We begin this afternoon on the Crime Watch and another deadly night in Salinas. This time, 2 people are murdered inside an East Salinas home. Action News reporter Felix Cortez is live at City Hall with our story. Felix.
Well, May, at his weekly news conference, Mayor Dennis Donahue called last night's double murder a gang hit, plain and simple. It happened at this home on the 500 block of Dallas on the city's east side around 9 o'clock last night. Police say 2 men went to the home, shot 3 people inside. A woman and man were killed. The police chief said it was a bold, brazen shooting that obviously was pre-planned.
These 2 gangsters simply sauntered up to this house and unloaded gunfire into this residence of known gangsters and simply sauntered away, got into a vehicle and drove casually away.
Well, as of this afternoon, the gunmen are still on the loose, but the homicides mark the city's 17th and 18th murder of the year. 4 of those killings happening in the last week alone. Reporting from outside City Hall, I'm Felix Cortez. May, back to you in the studio.
All right, Felix, thank you. And Felix will have much more on this story later on Action News 8 at 5 and 6.
Police in Salinas have arrested an additional gunman in connection with the 2018 fatal drive-by shooting. Investigators say they believe the 22-year-old Samsoni Tumalatai was one of 4 shooters involved in the death of 43-year-old Felix Francisco. Police say the victim was the last known person murdered by a group of 6 gang members who reportedly dubbed themselves the Murder Squad and went on 7 hunts through East Salinas between 2017 and 2018. During that time, 8 people were killed.
Weren't even gang members. They were completely random targets, such as the case with the field worker, Felix Francisco. Just a guy doing his job. And that's what really hits home about a lot of these. We're going to get to the father-son thing in a second, but you literally can picture just getting off of work, if you're, whatever you do in your daily life, and imagine being approached by a couple individuals, maybe one individual. Normally it's going to be more than one. And you're going to get that bad feeling. You're going to know something's up. And before you know it, you're either going to be seriously wounded, or maybe you're not even going to see it coming, and you're going to wind up dead. And, unfortunately for a lot of these victims, that's what happened. So originally in my original video, we talked about Siaki Tavale, Andrew Alvarado, John Mago, Anthony Valdez, Mark Anthony Garcia, and Analuli Tavale. They were wrapped up in a big federal indictment. Well, when I was reading through, just articles and getting through some of the stuff, I really wanted to focus on today the attempted murder by Neil Alguan Palermo. He was 23 years old, and on May 16, 2023 at around 10 a.m. in the Monterey County Jail, that was my intro, they sentenced him to 64 years to life. In his picture, he just seems like a normal guy, not heavily tattooed, not anything like that. But he had taken part in this 2017 double attempted murder at around 12 a.m. On Orchard Street. They rolled up. They were father and son, 49 years old and 20 years old. They're pulling into their driveway. Now, Alguin Palermo wasn't alone. He's with other gang members. They followed the two, and they shot at him as they pulled into the driveway. The victims were completely unaware they were being targeted. Gang members called the process of looking for killing random people, quote, hunting. Police said at least 4 firearms fired 21 rounds into the passenger side of the victims' cars. Quote, gang members would receive certification or formal acceptance into the gang for killing a person perceived to be a rival Serrano gang member. But they also said victims did not have to exclusively be gang member. This was part of, quote, Operation Red Rum, where a certain gang went around killing random and unsuspecting people for initiation into the gangs. The victims had no gang ties, according to the, officers. And this was a joint federal and state task force. This happens a lot with these gang sweeps and all that. Initially, he was facing 80 years. Okay, this is Neil Alguan Palermo. On December 30th, 2022, at around 3 in the afternoon, that's when Alguin Palermo was found guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and 2 counts of first-degree attempted murder. Then obviously, 6-7 months later, he gets sentenced 64 years to life. I mean, at that point, it's almost a life sentence. Nowadays, with laws and all that kind of stuff, people can get off and people can, get out and they can do good behavior. But like we've talked about in other videos, when you have gang enhancements, when you have these other things working against you as a gang member, as a street, and I don't know much about his criminal history, but they're going to really try to keep you there for a long time, especially with the high profileness of this case. And I'm sorry, but when it came out that they were random victims, no life is worth more than the other, but in my mind, that makes it a lot worse because at least in the public's eye and in the court's eyes, you can say, well, if you're in a gang and you're out committing acts and you're out, doing things to each other, Serranos are doing stuff to Nortenos, Serranos, vice versa. Okay, well, sometimes it's expected, but you're literally killing and attempting to kill complete average citizens. This is a father and son pulling into their driveway. And really try to picture that. I mean, you read so much of this stuff, you watch so much of this content, these videos. I think sometimes we kind of get desensitized to this stuff, but it's real. And it's like, man, could you imagine pulling into the driveway with, forget it being your dad, just somebody you care about. your girl, your mom, your cousin, your whatever, your sister, brother. And all of a sudden, you're not in a gang. You haven't done anything that you feel is wrong. You don't feel like you're looking over your shoulder for anything. And they said over 21 rounds were unloaded. And then the last thing we're going to talk about was, again, what the murder squad did. This is two guys, Anthony Valdez and Christopher Persuel. They're Norteno gang members. And they're accused of they were forming the murder squad that hunted. And it always says that, right? To kill rivals and gang dropouts. But they also said they targeted those that they weren't rival gang members. Same thing, right? Just go out, basically show you're about the business, and we'll do that. And it's absolutely crazy. So, excuse me. Felix Alonso Francisco was a field worker who was just, again, doing his job, doing his thing. And, here's this thing that they said a shooting is reported at around 1:30 a.m. on November 3rd. All right. And this is 2018. Felix Alonso Francisco, 43 years old. He's a migrant farm worker. And police right away said they don't believe he has gang ties, but they also didn't rule out that it was a gang shooting. And police chief of Salinas, Adele Fries, quote, says he was defenseless and alone on the street. Police found him with multiple gunshot wounds in a driveway where he was pronounced dead. And, it's just, to me, sometimes when I read these stories, it's like, man, sometimes it's kind of, I'm reading the same thing, but a lot of the stuff does hit home. Like I said, a lot of these attacks happened. The first one happened on January 12, 2017 with some of the original guys we were talking about in my original video I did on this a couple months ago. They gunned down, November 23rd, 2018, just an example, right? Oh, no, that's when they killed Felix Alonso, but then there was another one, June 11th, 2018. They spotted Sergio Carcoma walking down Center Street. They killed him. Was not a gang member. They gunned down Gabriel Hernandez Rangel on Paloma Ave. That happened on May 13th, 2017. Part of the murder squad shot and killed Fidencio Torres Vega and Rutilio Salvador Vega as they were relaxing with beers in a driveway on Dennis Avenue. That happened on March 25th, 2017. Then February 12th was the attempted murder of the 49-year-old and 20-year-old father-son duo. And it's just crazy. So pretty much going back to the original topic of the father and son, all right, and Neil Aguin Palermo, he gets 64 years to life. And that's what's one thing that was nuts about reading this is all of these guys were young. All of these guys were in their 20s. And they were all just trying to work their ways up. And a lot of stuff, and you guys can feel free to leave a comment down below, but a lot of stuff I've read on this and heard about this is that Hispanic gang members are attempting to get to prison. Like it's a goal to get to prison. I've heard enough about it to where I believe that's true. Feel free to, maybe explain in more detail down below to me. Give me some game on that. Give me some insight into that. But just wanted to talk about this one some more because I read these two stories. I didn't really talk about these two specific ones. And I put that picture up. It ended up saying that because, that federal indictment was like 6 or 7 guys. It ended up saying that the whole murder squad, 11 defendants were eventually indicted, charged of some sort, pled out, found guilty. All kinds of time was handed out, but just went kind of deeper than I realized. I'm reading that article about that, and I go, oh my God, this is tied into that video I did a few months ago. So there you guys have it. Trying to bring you guys a video a day, or at least a video every other day, and really, really appreciate everything. So till next time, peace.